The Why did I transition from Scrum Master to coach? I don't think I did it consciously, short answer. And I probably transitioned to coach before I did Scrum Master. So as a developer, as you move up the ranks, you get more authority, you get allowed to tell people what to do. Yay. So I started telling people, they'd come to me, oh, we can't fix this problem. I'd tell them how to solve it. They'd go away, they'd solve it. They'd come back next week and ask the same question, and I'd give them the same answer. And it slowly dawned on me, this ain't working because they're not learning. Right? I'm just answering the same questions over and over. While I was still as a developer, I had this realization I need to do something different. And in hindsight, luck. But the first thing I thought was, okay, what I need to do is sit down with them and go through it with them and show them my thinking. So they came with a problem. It was not quite clockwork, but you could tell which day it was. So I was like, okay, I'm not just going to tell you the answer. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to talk you through it. You're my hands on the keyboard. And as they did that, they started asking questions and I'd answer the questions. And yeah, that problem came back, but it changed slightly because they were further through it. They had a better understanding. And again, over time, I wish I was bright enough to go, yeah, got it. No, it suddenly turned into, okay, stop telling people, start asking. So a developer would come with a question, and I would genuinely, I'd ask things like, okay, what do you think the problem is? Oh, I think it's over here. Okay, let's go and have a look. So open up. What's making you think it's over here? Oh, this is how this. Okay, okay. How do you reckon that should fit together, and how is it fitting together? And I was still adding technical knowledge because some of the systems I just knew a lot more than them. But the people that I asked questions more than told them what to do bothered me less, which, as a nerdy introverted developer, is a good thing because I can keep my headphones on, keep my head down, do fun stuff. So I think I found myself a coach before I actually found myself a Scrum Master. When the opportunity to be a Scrum Master came along, I didn't understand what that meant. I thought it was something to do with you come up with a process, but you don't really have to deal with people. A tech lead, basically what I was already doing. I got that wrong, but it opened me up to this. Oh, actually, people are fascinating. People are constantly shifting and changing. What they know and how they present to the world is different every day. So what worked yesterday isn't necessarily going to work today. And there's just something about that. There's something in that realization that if one person's changing, everybody's changing. It's just fascinating because if you've got a way that works for a team, but everybody in that team is changing little by little, that way that works is going to stop working. Maybe in a small way, maybe in a big way. And those types of problems fascinate me. They've always fascinated me with the technical. It's not the easy stuff. It's the really hard, complex stuff where actually you're only really going to know how you solve the problem afterwards. That was the stuff that I enjoyed doing. And here it was, but even more so because it was all the time. So that's what really caught me as a Scrum Master. Now, when did I move from Scrum Master to Agile Coach? As I have said a lot over the years, an Agile Coach is really a Scrum Master when the teams aren't doing Scrum. So straight away. But I felt I could call myself one when I moved out of one team, two team situations where I was suddenly spanning multiple teams. And that's really where the shift into consultancy started, because it was that realization that I can't be in every team doing everything that I want to. What I need to start doing is helping other people be good at what I did. And how do you do that? There's some teaching, there's some coaching. There's just good answers, but at the same time, people can be looking and go, wait a minute, if the Scrum Master's doing this in all these teams and you're having the occasional chat with the Scrum Masters and your personal thing, what do you do with the rest of your time? Let's make you useful. That's really where I started talking to the senior leaders, because you build up a credibility, a rapport, and you're suddenly, oh, actually, John might know something about this. Oh, John knows some weird, wonderful stuff. Let's go and have a chat to him about what he knows about this area or that area. Which over time, as the relationship builds, develops into bringing me into the fold. First thing, not last thing. And suddenly I'm in that consulting position where I'm talking to, at times, incredibly senior leaders in businesses, way outside of my pay scale, way above the people who brought me in. because I come at problems from a different way. I view them through a particular lens that, yes, is heavily influenced by the world of Agile, but it's also influenced by complexity, by coaching, by my 40 odd years of being on this planet and the weirdness that goes on in my head all the time. People found that valuable. The fact that I would very often answer questions in a way they didn't understand or ask questions that they hadn't considered because they're locked into their world, and my brain's wandered off down a different avenue because I've been reading something about anthropology in the last week, and therefore anthropology is amazing and we should ask questions about that. That's really where it started, with this sudden realization that at all levels of a business, consulting is just asking good questions, right? And being able to take the information away, and yeah, at times you have to synthesize it, but very often asking that question in the room, just nudging people. One of the ones, one of the engagements that I worked on, there was a challenge of, why is John here? John's this expensive agile consultant wandering the building. What is he doing here? We're trying to cut costs, or whatever they were in. They were accountants. They were probably trying to cut me. I absolutely loved it because my sponsor turned around and said, because he opened his mouth in one meeting, he opened my mouth in a lot of meetings, but what he was talking about was one of the board meetings, and they were discussing something. And I asked a question. I asked one question in the entire meeting, and it sent them off on a different track, researching something very differently and looking at things differently. And while at the time I wasn't mature enough in my practice to think, what's the impact of that? Apparently, the impact was hundreds of millions of dollars. And the sponsor, as far as he was concerned, I could sit in the corner of that room because I wasn't going to cost anywhere near as much as I'd made it. If I said that thing, if I brought something to, if I looked at things in a different way and just presented it back differently to allow for clarity, to allow for a different perspective, it was worth it. And that's what I love about consulting. Every organization, every group of people is different, but getting to work with people, understand how they tick, being able to talk to them about stuff that really makes a difference to others, and occasionally have an insight that gets them to go, oh, actually, if we did that differently, these would be the follow-on benefits, something they hadn't thought of or wouldn't have thought of as quickly. That makes it worthwhile. Well, that's an interesting one. Probably the most fulfilling part of the role is that difference you make to people. All right. They may not articulate it, they may never even recognize it, but being able to go in, work with people, and because of a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience, be able to see things far faster because you've done it or you've done something similar, and you can go, oh, okay, it's like this. And I had it recently, being able to sit down with the leadership team after a big thing and just go, okay, so you did this, and this is what's going to happen, and you're probably already experiencing. And the look on their faces of going, you've been here 5 minutes. How do you know this stuff about us? And it's like, because I've done it. Because if I haven't experienced it, I can look at it and look at the situation, use my experience and what I know and extrapolate forwards. And you're going to be in this ballpark. I'm not going to be precise, I'm not trying to be precise. But that means that actually we can have quite a quick turnaround. I'm I don't want to be the consultant who's there 5 years later, right? Not solving the same problem. One of my clients many moons ago now used to talk about consultant life support, right? This idea that as an organization, you only really survive because the consultants are in running your organization for you. They're doing the do while your people do something. And it really resonated with me because I've seen it time and time again. I don't want to be that person. What we got talking to back then, and I still believe now, is when you're on consultant life support, accept it. You are. But that means you need a plan to get off it. So that's what I look for, is not how do I make more work for me? It's actually how do I, the good old how does the Scrum Master make themselves redundant problem. But that's it. How do I set you up where you could do this? Because what I also know is if I do that, I'm going to bring you up to a level where you as an organization can operate without me, without other consultants. You'll be able to do a good job. But also at the same time, you'll understand and value me as an equal, but somebody who sits outside of your world, who's able to offer that different perspective. And that client and a few others I've maintained relationships with as equals. They don't need me to do the job. They want me around to talk to me, bring me in to talk to people because they understand the value that I deliver. They don't have to, they could do it themselves. That's what really matters to me now, is finding a way to create consultancy engagements that are fulfilling for everybody, deliver real impact. But ultimately, when I walk away, you don't have to ask me back. You want to, at least I hope you want to, but you don't have to. You know, that piece of work is done. It is now in the DNA of the organization. You are changed to use it to best effect.